Welcome to another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. You're listening to a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State, featuring writer, poet, and musician Rick Pidcock. Now here's Rick.
Manosphere influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate have been arrested with a warrant for extradition to the United Kingdom on charges related to sexual violence. Also, this episode is going to include discussion of their views of women and sex, as well as their charges, so listener discretion is advised. According to the UK's Crown Prosecution Service, Andrew faces 42 criminal charges and Tristan Tate faces 17 charges, including rape, arranging or facilitating trafficking for sexual exploitation, assault, and indecent images of a child. They're working off of the testimony and evidence related to 7 alleged victims. The Tate brothers seem to be hoping President Trump will move to stop their extradition. For one thing, the Tates are huge supporters of Trump and were instrumental in recruiting young men to support Trump in the 2024 election. Also, Trump has his own history of allegations or charges related to sexual crimes, and Trump considers any attempt to hold him accountable as persecution. Joseph McBride, the Tate's lawyer, mentioned how Trump, quote, hates political persecution and communism, unquote. According to the New York Times, President Trump's son Barron admires the Tate brothers and has hung out with Andrew Tate. Also, Donald Trump Jr. appeared with Andrew Tate in June 2024 and said to him, "You've got people attacking you as far as I'm concerned. They just want to silence you." And in the days leading up to their arrest this weekend, the Tates were in Washington, D.C. meeting with Paolo Zampolli, who used to be the head of a modeling agency and was the man who introduced Donald Trump to Melania. When asked what the Tates were doing in D.C., Zampolli said, "They're having some business meetings." One of those meetings was held at an exclusive club close to the White House where cabinet secretaries often attend. So who are the Tates? For those who have been listening to Highest Power Church and State since the very beginning, you may recall I spent some time focusing on them all the way back in episode 1. At that time, they were being held in Romania facing charges. Andrew Tate reportedly said in January 2025, "I had word from the Trump administration that they're on top of things." Then in February, Trump's special envoy Richard Grenell reportedly pressed the matter with Romania's foreign minister. And then after that, the Tates were brought back to the United States, with Trump claiming, "I know nothing about that." I'm going to play back a portion of my coverage from episode 1 here as a way of reminding us all who these men are that the Trumps are allies with.
And I became a multi-millionaire. I did this by creating a webcam studio, by taking girls who didn't know how to be effective on webcam, girls who had never done webcam before, girls who didn't have the equipment, didn't have the know-how, didn't have the will, didn't have the premises, didn't have the ability to make money with this exchange. I created a system that allowed me to convince girls to do this, allowed me to retain 100% control of their income, allowed me to make sure they were effective, because it's a super competitive industry. Don't think this is easy money. You're just going to put a girl on the camera and they're going to get rich straight away. No, it's very competitive and it's very difficult. I learned every tip and trick it takes to make sure a girl gets paid. I know how to make sure the girl can't run away, because once you teach a girl how to do this, she has the ability to make unlimited money from home. Why would she still give it to you? Why does she just run off and keep it all for herself? Why are you getting your percentage? I learned how to do everything to take a nobody and make her a somebody. I learned how to take a nothing, turn her into a cash cow. And betas from all across the world would be sending money into my bank account.
Notice how he talks about the women here. He's not concerned about their welfare. He doesn't value them. He calls them nobodies that he turns into somebodies, and nothings that he turns into cash cows. And it's all for his own financial gain. But wait, there's more.
I was all about trying to get paid. Like I used sex as a tool to make women love me so they'd obey me and live in my house and make me money. That's what I wanted. So I was a pimp in that sense. Like, I was not trying to have sex with women. I was trying to get women to obey me. And I realized that's easier if they like to have sex with me. If they don't like having sex with me, it's pretty hard to make them listen to me.
These clips are actually some of the more tame ones that I found that I thought might get the point across while being less triggering than many clips that are out there. He has a lot of clips where he explicitly calls himself, "I'm a misogynist," or where he specifically details violence that he does to women. And so it should be no surprise, given the way he talks about women, that according to Newsweek, he and his brother, quote, are accused of being involved in a criminal gang that lured women to Romania to be sexually exploited, unquote. Also, he's being charged with rape as well. And it should be noted that Andrew Tate has a massive following online and is a major supporter of Trump. In fact, he was highly influential in recruiting young men to vote for Trump, young men who resonate with his views on masculinity and on women. According to Newsweek, quote, Richard Grenell, President Donald Trump's U.S. envoy for special missions, met with Romanian Foreign Minister Emil Hreizinu at the Munich Security Conference last week. So Tate accused Biden and U.S. aid of being responsible for his arrest in Romania due to him not being woke. And his comments are coming after Grenell himself mentioned Biden in U.S. aid and Romania as part of the right-wing allegations of the Biden administration weaponizing the government against people who aren't woke. And Tate is also facing rape allegations in the United Kingdom. So Grenell told the Financial Times, quote, I support the Tate brothers as evident from my publicly available tweets. And unfortunately, Grenell is not the only Trump official who supports Andrew Tate. Listen to these glowing words from Trump counselor Alina Habba on the Benny Show.
Hi.
Hello, Alina.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. I'm a big fan.
Well, nice to meet you. I'm a fan. You're the one saving Trump. You're doing more important work than me.
America, not just Trump. And I agree with everything you just said. And I think that your anger is the same that President Trump has for our country. And the time is now for us to stop being wimps. I think that's exactly the right sentiment. And I also have to say that I sympathize with you because I think you go through a lot of the same, show me the person, I'll find the crime that President Trump has gone through.
So here we have a Trump official, a Trump counselor, telling Tate she's a big fan of him. And then, according to CNN, a Romanian official says that Grenell raised their case during his meeting with Romania's foreign minister, which is a claim that Trump officials deny. But now, Tate and his brother have been released and allowed to travel to Florida, a decision that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says he knew nothing about and is not at all pleased about.
No, Florida is not a place where you're welcome with that type of conduct in the air. And I don't know how it came to this. We were not involved. We were not notified. I found out through the media that this was something that was happening.
So once again, fast forward back to their arrest this weekend. The Tates are now having to face the possibility of extradition, this time to the United Kingdom. But how does the story of the Tates fit into the broader religious and political dynamics we're dealing with in the US right now? Unfortunately, the Tates aren't simply a lone pair of brothers. They're part of a larger movement that's referred to as the Manosphere, one that taps into the persecution complex of men and moves them to assert themselves in positions of authority over women and to pursue wealth and power. Notice the language in the clips we already shared, talking about his bank account, or getting women to obey him, or saying it's time to stop being wimps. There's actually an entire documentary about these men on Netflix titled Louis Theroux Inside the Manosphere. Here's the trailer.
I normally train a little bit earlier in the day. I like to start my day off working out, doing hard things. Who are you talking to? What, do I not talk to them? Don't talk to him. Talk to you.
We're not on social media now. What would you say is the message?
I coach boys how to make money.
Wow, this is a nice spot.
How to be outside the system. How to be proper guys.
Shut up or nut up.
Would you see me that way? Did you look at my arms?
The stature's not saying too much.
I was entering the Manosphere, a wild frontier of streamers whose behavior is reshaping the culture.
People ask me why Miami, and I tell them because if it was 120 years ago, I'd be on a horse on the way to California to dig for gold.
Whose appeal has proved irresistible to hordes of young fans.
15 is probably like your main demographic.
No, it isn't.
They hear that content, they think it's acceptable.
Fuck the woman! Fuck the woman! What?
What have I done? I'm doing it for money. I don't care about
The morality of it.
I'm not living for other people. I'm living for myself.
The mother of my children, she doesn't talk to other men.
We don't cross into each other's lane.
Stings, huh? You seem upset by it. You seem upset by it.
Do you consider yourself a misogynist?
I love women and I actually understand them.
You think you know better than they do?
They want a guy that can lead them and dominate them.
Got anything to say to the live, the road?
Not really. Do you think Satanists are running the world?
Absolutely.
They talk about misinformation on the internet. This is what they're talking about.
I'm raw, I'm not a puppet, I'm not controlled. I don't do this bullshit editing that you guys do, because I'm real.
Are you getting triggered?
Notice the values they're promoting. They talk about teaching younger men how to make money, how to be outside the system, how to be proper guys. They say women want a man who can lead them. If you watch the documentary, you'll quickly notice how these men promote traditional values of two distinct genders, with men being the head of the relationship. Men are the ones who hold a job, who get to pursue their vision and build wealth, and women are their helpers, who submit to and follow them. Sound familiar? Here's an interview from the documentary with one of the leaders of the Manosphere.
People ask me why Miami, and I tell them because if it was 120 years ago, I'd be on a horse on the way to California to dig for gold. It's in me. I love it.
It feels like, whether you call it the red pill community or the manosphere, that it's seeking to maybe correct something, to redress a change in the culture.
I believe that the world really took a swing in the wrong direction when it comes to it being acceptable for a man to have a masculine energy about him, to be strong. It got called toxic. When you mix that with feminism, and we've asked women to become men, men invent, build, and maintain society. That's a fact. And
don't women do that too?
I look around. Can you name anything that a woman has invented and built in our plain sight?
Around here?
Nothing. Men built all these buildings. They engineered them. They designed them.
Do we definitely know that?
It is a fact.
There are many...
And there's nothing wrong with that, though. That's the other point. People think that we don't like women. I love women.
You're okay with girls, women wanting to be architects, astronauts,
absolutely,
entrepreneurs?
Hell yeah, if that's what they want.
But you think they don't really want that?
I think some of them do. But I think by and largely, these women are looking for husbands and want to have families.
Again, sound familiar? This is the exact sort of thing you hear coming from the mouths of men like Doug Wilson, who, as we all know, is Pete Hegseth's spiritual mentor. And what has Hegseth been up to this past week? He's been instituting testosterone tests for the military and calling it the High T Department of War. Part of the problem going on here is that people like Al Mohler go around celebrating the rise of traditional values in young men today, but then they don't seem to recognize how it's being fueled by the likes of the Tate brothers, the men in the Manosphere, Wilson and Hegseth. Instead, they think this is great. Men are taking a leadership role in providing for and protecting women. And it's not just the Tate brothers, Wilson and Hegseth. The Manosphere was also manifest recently at an event in Washington State known as Freedom Con. Some of you may remember the article I wrote a couple years ago about the Stronger Men's Conference, where Mark Driscoll got kicked off stage mid-sermon. Now Driscoll is back with a vengeance through not just a Stronger Men's Conference, but through what he's calling Stronger Man Nation.
To every man who longs to live free. To every father who longs to educate his children according to his own conviction. To every young man who dreams of owning land by right, not permission. To every man who has suffered under faceless bureaucracies that drain his dignity. To every man who knows that freedom is not denying biological reality, not destroying the unborn, nor irreversibly mutilating children. To every man who's worked a long day driven by the vision of a better future for his sons and daughters. To every man who has risked everything to build something that lasts. To every grandfather who dreamed of leaving a legacy to his grandchildren. To every boy who still believes in a hopeful future. To every man who longs for true freedom, you are not alone.
We cannot simply complain and gripe about the darkness of our state.
The need of the hour is urgency. We will claw tooth and nail to build our victory and to establish the dominion of Jesus Christ right here, right now.
We will not give in to the defeatist spirit and attitude because, friends, listen, Washington is not a lost cause.
Those bills were not a list of accomplishments of the Texas legislature. They were a list of prophecies for the Washington legislature. The best days are ahead for Washington.
The problem is big in your mind because God is small in your mind. If God were bigger and you feared God, you would not fear anything or any man ever again.
When I know who he is, I know what to ask for all the time. I feel like I can hear the devil saying, what if it doesn't happen? You know how I respond? My dad can do anything. I don't serve a broke God, a dead God, a sleeping God, or a lesser God. I serve the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, who at his spoken word, the planets spin in motion. And at that God's word, my life comes out of the grave.
The website says Stronger Man Nation presents Freedom Con, an American Congress of Christian Men, Rise of the Statesmen. It says Freedom Con, designed as a catalytic experience, will call men to a plan of action for preserving the vision of America's founding fathers. Speakers will unpack the historical precedent, biblical foundation, and moral necessity of Christian statesmanship. Sessions will combine intellectual rigor, unapologetic patriotism, and unwavering biblical conviction to summon men and boys to this noble call as a capstone expression of stronger manhood. The featured speakers included Josh McPherson, Eric Metaxas, John Lovell, Russell Johnson, Josh Howerton, and Mark Driscoll. They also had a group of 6 younger men who looked like they were in their early 20s who spoke. They were called the Gen Z speakers. In addition to the preaching, they also set up activity booths, like the lasso throwing booth, a chainsaw and axe booth, tug of war, etc. Worship was provided by David Crowder and Danny Goki. They were dressed up in military fatigues and took pictures of themselves showing off their muscles. And all of this was meant to promote the rise of the statesman, which is essentially men being in charge of their homes, churches, and communities. That's what the Tates promote. That's what the Manosphere promotes. And all of these men, whether we're talking about the Tates or these pastors, bend their knee to Donald Trump. And that's what's so frustrating about all this. The entire movement, whether motivated by money or theology, is a movement driven by ego that creates power dynamics of male entitlement to pleasure and power at the expense of women, while claiming to simply be promoting traditional values. The Tates and the men of the Manosphere view themselves as emperors over women. They're recruiting millions of men into supporting Trump. And Christian complementarian men aren't asking enough questions because they like the rise to power as more men are embracing the language of traditional manhood. But unless you're offering a complete subversion of the Tate's view of women, you're not offering good news. You're offering the same thing, with a gospel pill slipped in so everyone drinking from your cup doesn't recognize what you're doing to them. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, and rate us on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back with another episode on Thursday.
This has been another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. The episode you've just heard is part of a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State. Be sure to follow BNG daily at baptistnews.com and subscribe to get notifications about future episodes. Baptist News Global is a national nonprofit news service that is independent, free, and faithful. BNG is supported by readers and listeners like you. Learn more at baptistnews.com.
This episode was produced and edited by Mac Bowles of TKG Communications, LLC, Dallas, Texas.